Gmail.com.
You can't handle the truth.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
You have offended my family.
Hey, this is great, man.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
I know nothing.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We don't need no stinking budget.
Homosexuality, immorality generally.
Down the centuries, you have slurred the meaning of the words we, the people.
Be warned, this is not your mother's marijuana.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant. Welcome back, everyone. 46 after the hour. And this afternoon, I was a guest on the Boston Pot Report with Dr. Keith Saunders. And we got to discuss the Oregon marijuana vote shenanigans that are going on. And we also pointed out how this could be the playbook for defeating the prohibitionists in other states like Massachusetts in 2016. We turn things over to the Boston Pot Report and Dr. Keith Saunders.
We got legalization measures happening in Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C., and we have a medical marijuana amendment that's on the ballot down in Florida. So those are the four major things that are happening. With us on the line right now, calling from the great state of Oregon, Mr. Russ Belville. Hi, Russ. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. So I was just sort of updating our listeners who might not have been catching the news coming out of High Times or Huffington Post or 420 Radio, that you have, over the past couple of months, decided that through public requests of public records to see exactly what the opposition to Measure 91 has been up to. And so what have you found?
I have found shenanigans. Basically what was going on here is in 2012, the opponents of marijuana legalization, we had legalization on the ballot in 2012 and it failed, but in 2012, the opponents of legalization put together what they call a Oregon Marijuana Drug Summit, an educational summit is what they billed it as. And at this summit, they had sheriffs and drug prevention people and Kevin Sabet tell people to vote no on Measure 80, legalization's bad, and it's awful. And it came around again this time in 2014, and they were going to do the same thing, and we started thinking, wait a minute, you can't, how are they paying for this? How is this happening? If they're state, and county prevention people, aren't they forbidden from using their time and their position to be able to electioneer? So we started digging. We started doing some open records requests, and we found that these groups, they use these drug prevention grants that they get from the federal government, and these grants specifically forbid them, as does federal and state law, from using that money to try to influence an election. And Oregon's law is pretty strict about it in that you don't even it doesn't have to be explicit. Like, they don't even have to say, vote no on Measure 91. If what they're saying and doing could be reasonably interpreted as something to be against legalization, it doesn't have to be explicit. It's still a political event. So in our digging, we found that indeed they were using they were using this drug prevention grant money. They were using their county offices. They were using all sorts of public resources to try to put this thing together. After we started focusing some attention on it, the news broke about this. The local newspaper did a story on it, and my congressman, Earl Blumenauer, filed an official complaint about it, and that forced them to have to pull out all the public money and replace it with private donations, most of which came from the Sheriff's Association.
Very interesting. So sort of classic grassroots activism updated for the current era and the condition of the way things are in Oregon. So how exactly did you go about raising the resources that you need to do this? Is this just like an all-volunteer effort? Was there sort of a solicitation campaign? What was going on?
Yeah, it began with just my volunteer efforts, me just trying to get to the bottom of this. But as I started making these records requests, I would get responses back from the counties that said, well, you got to pay for the time of the staff to be able to look it up. You got to pay for the cost of the CD we're going to put it on, etc. There are waivers for these kind of things for journalistic purposes, but having to go through all that and the time and the delay and the fighting over that would have taken too long. So instead, I just started a GoFundMe campaign on the internet asking for $2,000 originally to be able to pay these counties for their requests. And the requests have varied from county to county. One county was very forthcoming and gave me the emails I was looking for $300. Another county, for the same exact request, wanted to charge me $6,000. So the more I dig on this, the more impropriety and inconsistency I find from county to county. And I also find more dirt than I was originally intending to dig up.
Mm-hmm. And so I've seen that you've posted before links to these vast county files of emails and asked people to help contribute their effort reviewing these documents for things that look a little fishy.
Yes, I've crowdsourced the work on it because, I only have 24 hours in my day to be able to look at things. And like you said, there's thousands of emails up there now. And I have gotten help from 3 or 4 activists out there on the internet who've looked through and found little nuggets for me that I then go and post on my Twitter feed. You can find all this stuff at radicalruss.com. That's where I've been doing all the blog posts. radicalruss.com/docs are where all the documents are stored.
Excellent. And so really what you've put together, in my view, is a model for upcoming actions in a variety of other states. That here in Massachusetts, we anticipate in 2016 there will be a legalization question on the ballot, and that we should begin our oppositional research and see exactly, who in what positions of official capacity are actually doing private campaigning.
Yes, I think that's really important. And the more I started digging into this, the more I wanted to make this stick, because I knew this could be the template for California, for Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, any of the states, Nevada, that might try in 2016. This really all flows from Kevin Sabet, the head of Project SAM. And when you follow the bouncing ball here, what you find is Kevin Sabet forms Project SAM, this supposed volunteer group to fight legalization nationwide. He then goes and recruits local drug prevention people that are working in the county drug prevention offices in various states. For example, in Oregon, he recruited Mandy Puckett, who was working with Best Care, one of the prevention groups that was putting on this Oregon Drug Summit. He then flies out the people. I don't know if he pays for the flight or they pay for the flight or the state pays for the flight. I'm still working on that angle. But then the local person flies out to Florida for a Project SAM national seminar where they are taught how to get grant money without running afoul of any of the proscriptions on lobbying. So Kevin Sabet flies these people out to train them how to get the grant money. Then when they flew back, they were about to use that grant money to bring Kevin Sabet out to talk about drugs and marijuana and all the terrible things that were going to happen if we legalized. So what a racket that is, where you can form a group, recruit local people to get federal money to pay you. That's amazing.
How much was Sabet getting per appearance?
We've got the contract up online at radicalruss.com/docs. He was asking $3,000 per city plus expenses for flight, rental car, hotel, and meals. This was originally going to be a 13-city tour. That would have been $39,000 in public money, and it was going to stretch over 7 days. That's 7 days of rental cars and hotels and meals. Thanks to our look at the open records request, we scared away 6 of those cities from participating. We cut his tour down to 7 cities and 3 days.
My goodness. Well, I was noting that, there was an abrogation, an alteration to his schedule last week when this was initially sort of coming out. And really, it really strikes to the heart of this thing, which is the prohibitionists and those who are just entering into the business side of cannabis now that it's more above board and who are looking principally for profit rather than for advancing a cause, are both sort of outside of the condition of the activists, because the activists are doing it on their own dime for their own purposes because they believe in this. And so when the money's not there for the prohibitionists or for the new rich kids who want to get into this thing, they walk away. Whereas Rick Steves pays for his own multi-city tour down in Portland or down in Oregon.
That's right. And that's really what offended me so much about it is because I've been, I worked for Normal from 2008 to 2012. And then since 2012, I've been doing this independently. And it's not that I'm getting rich doing this for certain. I mean, every month is a struggle to find enough money to pay rent. And I would love to be able to travel all over the state of Oregon, do my show live, do seminars and events for people, but I'm just way too poor to do it. So it pissed me off that my taxpayer dollars were going to go to pay state people to pay Kevin Sabet to come out and do an educational tour on the taxpayer's dime. Look, I got no problem if people are against legalization. I'm all for free speech. I'm all for democracy. We got to play on the same level playing field. They don't get to use taxpayer dollars to proselytize for prohibition. We don't get to use taxpayer dollars to proselytize for legalization. And as long as we're on a level playing field, I'm fine with it.
Well, yes, indeed. So this is pretty much where we stand right now. We are looking at real reforms that are happening faster and faster. The momentum is definitely on the side of legalization and medicinal marijuana going just all the way across the country. And these are sort of the death throes of, Kevin Sabet's perfect. He's made his entire adult living sucking on the teat of federal funds, either as the drug czar's mini-me or accepting grant monies or whatever else it happens to be. And yes, now he's seeing that source. Well, I don't know if it's drying up. If he can make $40,000 in a week, maybe he's still working this angle pretty well. But the days are numbered. It's going to end.
Yeah.
And soon we're going to see policy reflecting more sensibility rather than knee-jerk prohibition.
Yeah, and some other shenanigans we've uncovered, and we're just beginning to peel away at this one, is that on Kevin Sabet's trip out here, he signed a contract on May 24th for his personal company, his personal for-profit company registered in Massachusetts as Policy Solutions Group, I think is what it's called. And then I looked up on the Massachusetts Secretary of State corporation filings and found that that company was administratively voluntarily dissolved in June. So who was getting paid in October here in Oregon, and how did Kevin Sabet get that money? That's what we're going to uncover next.
Well, I am looking forward to seeing what's going to come up out of that one. It's great to dig down in the dirt. Prohibitionist poop does stink. And thank you for the work you're doing. Good luck, continued success out there. And is there anything else you want to share with people in terms of ways that they can help out or other things that you think are important in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to understand that marijuana legalization and reform isn't just an issue in your state. It's a national and international issue. If you're sitting there in Massachusetts upset that you're not voting on legalization yet, send some money to Oregon and Alaska. Send some money to Florida. Get online. Go to their websites. Spread their information. Email your friends. Volunteer for a phone bank. We can do this if we all pull together to make this happen. We can use help from all over the country.
Well, thank you, Russ. That's Russ Belville, 420radio.com, russbelville.com. You can check him out on the regular. He's always putting up fresh content, new information. He's doing the yeoman's work of grassroots, digging in the dirt type of activism.
And quick note, it's 420radio.org, and it's radicalruss.com.
There we go. There it is, folks. All right, you check those websites out. You listen to them broadcast every day, and you check out.
All right, many thanks to the Boston Pot Report and Dr. Keith Saunders for having me on the show. Coming around the top of the hour, 4 o'clock, we have got the press conference from No on Measure 91. Mandy Puckett and her associated crew there of cops, rehabbers, moms, even her own kid she put up in the press conference. You better have some weed handy because this might make you mad. We're going to take some time and listen to them and debunk them as we go. We might not get through the whole thing, but we'll get through enough of it. Also, I've got a couple of debunk graphics up at radicalruss.com or Radical Russ on Twitter or Radical Russ on Facebook. I'm going to make a new one every day based on the mailer they've been sending out here in Oregon. So spread those far and wide. For everyone here at 420radio.org, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it.
Measure 91 means regulate